Hello, welcome everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. Thank you for joining us today. If you could just pop a message maybe in the comments section just to let us know where in the world you're joining us from, and to make sure that we're coming through loud and clear. But thank you for joining us. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you might be. Today we're going to be talking about virtual events and the comparisons between virtual and in-person, and the different advantages that we believe, including virtual, in your recruitment strategy can bring. So my name's Jack with FPP. I'm based in the UK. And today I'm joined by my colleague John, who's in Brazil. And I see we've got somebody joining us from Saskatchewan in Canada. Good morning, I guess, for you. Another from Ontario, good morning. So it's great. I guess we are coming through loud and clear. And we'll kick things off. A third from Canada as well, from Quebec. Hi, Lissa. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, we'll start with taking a quick look at our FPP's history with virtual events. It's not something that's super new to us. We actually began with virtual events back in 2012, and my colleague John was actually the project manager for our first virtual event. That was working with an external platform who provided the solutions for us. I think there was one or two hiccups with the event, but virtual was something that we really did believe in and wanted to evolve over the next few years. We really saw a future for it, and we already thought that there would be, quite a few advantages with virtual events. And so after that first experience in 2012, we decided to build and launch our own platform. And this process started in 2015, and it was ready to go in 2017. And then over the next couple of years, we held around a dozen or so events each year to different parts of the world. So virtual was still not really our main focus, but it was something that we were, really increasing in what we were doing. And then, as we all know, in 2020, the world changed, and virtual was really the only way we had to connect universities with students in different places around the world. We've got another person joining from Canada. Welcome, Pascal. And so the platform we use, it's our own platform designed purely for international education. We used our own experience in international events, international student recruitment, and as well, we listened to our clients, the people that are joining us today, as well as many others, as to what they would want in virtual events. The great thing about this platform as well is because it's our own platform, we can continue to evolve it. We can make the changes that our clients think would make for a better event. But as you may or may not know, FPP wasn't always a virtual event company. We previously were holding events all around the world, in-person events all around the world. And I've got here some figures from 2019, which was the final year we were able to hold a full schedule of in-person events. And so throughout the year, we held 95 events with 3,787 booths in 25 countries, visiting 62 cities and welcoming 134,000 students. So as you can see from these numbers, we were a pretty big event organizer. As far as I know, one of the largest student fair organizers in the world. So we were in a strong position then. And then things kind of took a shift in 2020. And I have here some figures just from the latest year, from 2021, now that we've completed a full year of virtual, just so you can compare what we were doing in 2019 and what we've been able to do more recently. So throughout the last year, we held 117 events. So it's fairly comparable in the number of events we do, as well as the number of booths, over 5,000 booths. But then the next 2 points are where we see one of the key differences in virtual events. So in 2019, we were able to visit 25 countries, but in 2021, through virtual events, we reached students in over 170 countries around the world. And that would be almost impossible, I think, if not impossible, for in-person recruitment. And then in those 170 countries, we reached in excess of 10,000 cities, towns, and villages, and welcomed 195,000 visitors. And then you'll notice at the bottom, we were also able to plant 5,149 trees. So something we've been focusing on with our switch to virtual is the sustainability side of things. Virtual offers a much more sustainable option. There's less travel, there's less brochures and pollution. And what we've also decided to do, because there is still some carbon output with virtual events, is we decided to partner with the Eden projects. And so for each virtual booth we host, we plant a tree. And so, as you may or may not know, earlier this year, we decided that FPP's future would be fully virtual. And there is a few reasons for this. And essentially, we believe that virtual events and virtual recruitment offers quite a number of advantages compared with the in-person side of recruitment. So firstly, we have meetings today are completely online. More and more people have become completely comfortable, meeting instead of face-to-face meeting via webcam. It's very effective. I'm myself here in the UK. We have John in Brazil, and then the only comments we've had are from Canada, but perhaps we've got people from other parts of the world as well who have been able to join. And so, of course, with student recruitment events, we're reaching the Generation Z, and they've grown up with technology and the internet, so they're very, very comfortable with this side of things. The third point is that it's more sustainable, as I mentioned before. And then we're also, as we say, there's no bounds. So as I showed on the previous slide, we were able to reach over 10,000 cities through our virtual events. So we were reaching students and parents, but would never normally have the opportunity to connect with university representatives because they're outside of the major cities. And we've got somebody else joining here from England. Welcome, Ian. The next point is in bold because it's something that we're going to focus a little bit more on today, is that virtual events are far more cost effective, not just for universities and recruiters, but also a little more effective and convenient for the parents. But that's something that John is going to cover in a little more detail later on. There's also a huge time saving element. Again, John's going to cover this, but of course, without the need to travel, you're saving a huge amount of time reaching many more different areas. And as well, through technology, it enables a better follow-up. You have more data, and it's just easier. It's very easily accessible. I guess depending on the platform you're using, but in general, it's far easier to follow up with students. So as we've mentioned, virtual recruitment, it can be now sustainable, or recruitment can be now sustainable. We've got here a couple of images. The image on the left, it's actually an image taken, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it's from our event in Bogota. It's certainly from an FPP event somewhere in the world. And this is the boxes that our exhibitors had shipped prior to the event. So as you can see, there's what looks like hundreds of boxes, and that would mean, I guess, thousands and thousands of brochures. Many of these would have made their way into students' hands, but sooner or later would end up hopefully in recycling, but perhaps more likely would just end up in the trash, which is a shame. And so by doing virtual events, we're no longer requiring, or students no longer require your brochures, and then we're turning what we do into green. So we're planting trees for each booth instead of requesting brochures. So I'll now pass you over to John, who's going to explain a little bit about the cost difference in terms of virtual compared with in person.
Perfect. Thanks, Jack. And sorry, everyone, that you've gone from a nice English accent to an Australian one. I hope you can understand. As Jack said, I'm in Brazil. In advance, there might be some noises. São Paulo is going through a construction boom at the moment. So you might hear some strange noises. Now, I'd just like to start with, I have nothing against travel, definitely not. I mean, in 1998, my wife, who was a Brazilian, went to London to study English, and I happened to be backpacking through Europe, met her, we spent time in London, went to Australia, and then in 2006, we moved to Brazil. I've been here ever since. So that was a product of traveling. And I have 2 Brazilian kids, and one day I hopefully will give them an advantage and the experience of studying abroad as well. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. Events. This event we have here, 2020, is a tour in Brazil that we were supposed to have in the first semester. So it took in 6 cities and 7 days of events, 2 days in São Paulo. As you can see there, The total cost to attend these events was $13,230, which includes actually one free fare because we had a package deal there. So let's look on the travel. Let's say you're a recruiter that lives in New York, go to Brazil, there's 500 US in flights. Intercity flights would be between 30 to 50 plus baggage if you had some more baggage. So intercity would be flying from, of course, city to city to go to fairs like Porto Alegre, to Curitiba, to Campinas, and so forth. Airport transfers 50 to 100. What this means, the transfer from the airport to your hotel and then back again. So, for example, you land in Sao Paulo, you take a taxi to your hotel, you do your fares, and you take a taxi back to the airport. So we factored in between 50 and 100 there. So you're looking at around 900 to 2,000 for that segment of the travel. Now the extras. We need the marketing material at the fair. So most of you would have taken like banners, posters to put up on the wall of the booth. And that would cost, and then of course brochures to give away, and that would be around 30 to 50, probably more including shipping. So we're being quite conservative there. Meals, 30 to 50 per day. I'm sure you could probably spend more a day, but we factored in 30 to 50. Accommodation, 100. I mean, in Sao Paulo, 100 US a night. You're not going to get a great hotel, but we factored in 100 to 300 per night. So for this tour, those extras would have cost you 1,900 to 4,900, depending on the type of accommodation, your marketing materials, your meals, and so forth. So we're looking at a minimum of around 16,000 to 20,130. If we can go to the next one, Jack. So in person, yeah, I hear a lot of people say, John, but in person you have that connectivity, of being in person, being able to see their facial expressions, have that connection. Okay, I'll give you that. But look at this. How much time are you going to spend with each student at the fair? Let's say you're one representative going through Brazil doing this tour. Let's say you take 5 minutes to speak to each student at an average. You might spend less, you might spend a bit more, but 5 minutes as an average. Each fair is 5 hours. So you're looking at 60 students per day, per fair. So for the seven days of fairs, it would have been 420 students in total. If you spent more time, let's say 7 minutes with each student, you're looking at 42 per fair and 294 for the tour. So you can see there the comparisons there. What I have here is our last Brazilian virtual fair that was in September this year. We had 1,874 students attend. And those students logged in from 1,401 different cities. So you're looking at the in-person, you've gone to 7 cities. Maybe some students came from surrounding cities in there. So let's say 14 cities compared to students logging in from 1,401 cities. Now, the average lead per booth was 195 at that fair. Some people got less, some people got more, but the average is 195 with a cost per lead at $9.70 per lead. Now, let's look at the time because, of course, you've got to spend time away. If you've got family, you're spending time away from your family and so forth. So for that tour, you would have spent 312 hours away, which is 13 days, and only 35 hours actually speaking to students at the fairs. So remember, 5 hours per fair, times that by 7, there you go, 35 hours. Let's do a quick comparison here. Physical fairs, you're looking at spending between $16,000 and $20,130. At a virtual fair, FPP virtual fair, $1,890. What's the leads per that tour, depending on how much time you spend with each student? You're looking at physical, 210 to 525. Going off our last one in Brazil, 195. Cost per lead. Of course, this all depends on how many students you speak to at the fair, how much time you speak with each student. $30.50 to $95.80 compared to $9.70 for virtual. Overall time that you spent away going to try and recruit students, to meet students for the first time at a physical fair would be 42 hours, okay, for the 6 cities, and 5 hours for the virtual fair. So 6 cities at an in-person fair. Of course, maybe the surrounding city, some people from a surrounding city. Let's give it 20 cities compared to 1,401. So that's a massive difference. And I think that is great for students as well that don't have the opportunity to go to where the in-person fairs are. They get the chance to actually speak with representatives from university schools around the world. So we've done some quick percentages here to see the differences. So cost for physical between 750% to 965. Cost per lead, you're looking between 214 to 888% more per lead, and 740% more time spent at the fair. Remember, at a physical fair, you're 5 hours a day times how many days that you're at the fairs. With the virtual fair, it's one time, and you're spending like 5 hours in total if you're there before to get set up for the fair. So there's a massive difference there. So if you look at the total time, 6,140% more if you're doing in person. So that's just our quick analysis to show you a comparison there, which I think is quite shocking when you look at it like that. Okay, let's move to the next one. Oh, man, sorry, I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy. This is a massive day for me. I remember there was rumors, was Apple going to launch a phone? I sat down, I logged in, I watched this live. Steve Jobs comes on stage, goes through his spiel and says, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 products to bring to you today. An iPhone, which is highly successful at the time. I don't know if you remember. It was massive. A phone and an internet device, I think he called it. And the crowd goes, that's amazing, blah, 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 blah. Then he pulls it out of his pocket and goes, but they're all in one device. And it's called the iPhone. And everyone cheers. And me as a Apple fanboy, I loved it. This is amazing. And I think this is a day that the world really changed. And then we had the Android devices that sort of copied them and that sort of thing. I remember, and I wrote it down, the next day, I think it was the next day, CEO of Microsoft at that time, Steve Ballmer, came out and said, and I quote, "It is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard." A keyboard. Remember back in those days, the BlackBerry. My wife was addicted to it. It doesn't have a keyboard. I don't know anyone in business or otherwise that has a keyboard on their phone. So that just shows you how things have changed. Okay, things evolve. Things get better with technology. We can make better use of technology. So who are the people that we're targeting to come to our fairs? Who wants to travel and study abroad? Well, we're probably looking at around the 17 to 20 is a large percentage of our market. So in 2007, when the iPhone was introduced, a 17-year-old today, he was 3. An 18-year-old today was 4. A 19-year-old, 5, 20. So you get the picture. So basically, these guys, these people grew up with being online. And it's even more so now. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. But as you can see, everyone, our target market, the people that we want to connect with are all doing things online. Okay, let's move to the GZen. Boom, we've just covered that. They want this. They're comfortable being online. I mean, and as we go, generations, the people coming through are going to be even more comfortable online. Look at Facebook, that's now Meta. How many billions they are investing into the metaverse? My son, just to give you a quick difference, when I was a kid, I'd finish school, would play in the streets or whatever. What's my son do? He comes home, he does everything he needs to do. He hops on the game. I can't remember the game anyway. Hops on, puts his headphones on, and he's playing a game in a sort of a metaverse because what? He's talking to his friends from school. Hey, what do you think about that happened to? Or he's talking to his relatives, all playing the game, all online. So they're used to this. They're used to being online. Okay, sustainability. Well, It's, of course, less travel, less printing brochures. It's all going to have less impact on our environment. Unlimited materials. At our events, you can upload as many brochures, PDF, videos, photos as you wish. So there's no limitation. So if you're traveling, you can only really take a limited amount of brochures. And the good thing about the virtual fairs is the students, when they go into your booth and they like a brochure or a video, they can say, click, add that to my backpack. So the next day and forever, they can go into their accounts and they can see all the material that saved during the fair. So let's say they saved, I don't know, I'm from Sydney, the University of Sydney. Okay, that's in their backpack. And save some brochures from there. London Met, they got some videos. And so the next day they can just hop in, see everything that they saved. They can also see the conversations they had with the university representatives. So if, any conversation you have with a student, the student can actually see that conversation the next day and vice versa. So you, as a university representative or a school representative, will be able to see all the conversations that you have during the fair. Let's move on to the next one, Jack. Multilingual. Okay, let's say you travel to Brazil and you meet a family at a fair, and the family does not speak English, and you're trying to communicate. Well, that's a bit of a barrier right there. On virtual fairs, no, this is not a barrier, because what would happen? You can type in the chat in English. On the other side, that parent would click to see it in Portuguese. They would type in Portuguese, and on your side, you would see it in English. And we have like the same with whatever language you would like to think of, Spanish, Thai, whatever it may be. So that breaks down barriers just there. Better use of time. Of course, everyone saves time. We've covered that, how much time you spend away traveling, doing recruitment fairs. And actually for the student and the parents as well. They don't need to leave their home, get in traffic, go line up, wait to speak to a representative, spend I don't know how many hours out of their Saturday or Sunday, whatever it may be. It's just a better use of time on both sides. Easy to search. Okay, I've seen this at fairs. A student arrives and they'll see me on one of the, I need some help about, I'm looking for this university or so forth. When they go into the platform, boom, they can do a search on like, what program are they looking for? Undergrad, postgrad, they're looking for languages. What type of course? Do they want business? Do they want marketing? Do they want to study in Canada? Do they want to study in Australia? Click the button, comes up a list of universities that we recommend to them from what they put into the search engine. So this makes it much easier to search for the universities and schools that they're looking for. Okay, more reps. Okay, so at that, when we did that cost analysis, we were doing for one rep to travel. So if you've got two, let's double that. But with our fairs, you can have 5 reps logging in at the same time, okay, for no extra cost. So 5 reps, no extra cost. And so that's a great advantage. Added value, what do we mean by this? You can have alumni, current students, professors. So you might have yourself who's in charge of student recruitment. You might have an alumni in Brazil logged in at the same time, a current student that's on campus in Melbourne, a professor in Melbourne, and one of your agents in, I don't know, Chile, all logged in at the same time to help students with their inquiries. Quality, okay, quality. People, sometimes they don't want to go to in-person fairs. So let's just think of how it is. And it's changed a lot since 2019 with everything that's been going on. So maybe there's a family, the son says, Dad, there's a fair in town. I want to go and see the universities on offer. Father says, oh, really? We've got to get in the car. We've got to go there and line up. I'd really rather, let's go to our beach house or whatever. So you may miss out on meeting families, good families, students, because of the hassle of going to an in-person fair. Okay. Let's hit the next one while I have a quick glass of water. The reach there's no comparison with the reach. As we said, 1,401 students logged in from different cities and towns around Brazil. So this is great for both sides. We have the student that would never get a chance to speak with a representative because those in-person fairs don't go to their city, and the representative that gets to speak with these students that are in these far-reaching towns and cities throughout the country that they would never see at an in-person fair. The data, there's no comparison with the data. We give the data on your brochures, how many students liked your brochures, your videos, your photos. You have the data on how many students were looking for postgrad, for undergrad that went to your booth. We have all your conversations with the student, the transcripts that you can go back to the next day. So let's say during the fair, you're talking with a student, they're a great prospect, you put a little star for 5 stars, and I need to follow up tomorrow. Then you download this data the next day. You see that note, you go in, you look at the transcript, word from word, what you talked about that student. And then you know how best to follow up with that student. At an in-person fair, you're going to have a conversation and you're not going to get every need and want that student was looking for. Well, you're not going to remember it anyway. Convenience. It's just much easier, isn't it? Like parents and students don't need to travel. You don't need to travel. More time spent with your family and so forth. So you can have it. You can be at your home. You can be in your office, wherever it may be, and no need to travel. And I think that that covers it. I hope we have some questions there. I mean, I'm open for debate. If someone thinks that in person is a better one. But basically what we're saying here is we've done in person. We've done it for many years and we thought it was the best way to do things, but things have changed, the world's changed. And now what we see is there's so many benefits to in person, to virtual. Okay, benefits to virtual, bang, bang, bang. We have so many. Whereas in person, what is the benefits? If someone would like to put in the chat, what is the benefit of doing in-person fairs? I'd love to hear about it. Any questions there, Jack? These Canadians have gone quiet. I thought we had Canadians in the booth.
I'm not seeing any come through. We may have put everybody to sleep. If anybody does have any questions that they want to send to us maybe outside of this presentation, then feel free to drop us an email at talkto@fpp.world or send to your FPP representative. Okay, we have a question here from Kylie, or Killy, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that quite right. The number of leads seems higher in real life. I'll quickly head back to that slide.
Go back to that slide, mate.
It was this one here, right?
That one, yep.
This one here.
No, go back. Go back to the one where we break it down in minutes. No, that's it. That one. No,
I think we've got a bit of a delay.
It's the one where it's got 4 minutes. If you spend an average of 4 minutes with a student, an average of 5, but this is one person going to the fair.
And this is also considering 7 days of events, whereas the Brazil Virtual Fair, it was a single event. So the virtual fair was just a single event for 4 hours, whereas you're spending 35 hours to collect the number of events at the in-person fairs.
But Jack, I think maybe what they're saying, that it seems that there would be more. So we're taking an average of 5 minutes with each student. You would get 60 for that fair. But sometimes, and I've seen it when we did in person, of course, we had that app. Remember, we were the first to come out with an app at in-person fairs where they would just click on students. So they may get more leads through there. So they're talking to one student and there's a crowd and they'll say, oh, wait a second. And they'll collect the leads of the other ones. But really then and then maybe they would walk off, but they got the lead. But the whole thing that I heard for in person was to have that connection. So in that case, they're getting more leads, but they're not having a connection face to face with the student. So to answer your question, it really depends if you're doing the fair by yourself, how much time you spend with each student, and that breaks down to how many leads you'll get per event and for the tour. So she might have got more, or they might have got more leads by doing that. Or they might have had an agent at their booth as well, so they could both be scanning for leads.
I'm not seeing any more questions coming in, so perhaps we can wrap this up.
Yep.
Unless you have any final comments, John.
I don't, but I just really see that everything's changing. I mean, here in Brazil, cash, not many people use cash anymore. They just use the phone, not even a credit card. It's just boop, boop. Everyone's just scanning. People aren't going to banks. Digital banks are massive here in Brazil. Digital banks, for example, there's this one new bank. They don't have any offices whatsoever. To give you an idea, now Warren Buffett, he's not a silly guy. He invested 500 million into this new bank this year, in June this year, through his Berkshire Hathaway investment company. So what's that telling me? So people are going away from even going into a bank. There's no need to have an office. There's no need to have somewhere where someone can physically go. And there's a lot of different examples of this in society. And I just believe, and I think FVP is on the same thing, is just there's too many benefits to being virtual than to doing in person. But I think I've spoken enough there, Jack. Let's finish up with your little posh accent there.
Well, we have a final question here from Ian. Do you have any insights into the shift in perception of an institution from a virtual interaction as opposed to face-to-face?
Well, I've had, obviously, there's been different points of view on this. Ian, I'd love to hear what you think about this, actually, the shift. But I was speaking to a client from Australia the other day about that, who used to do a lot of in-person events, and he said, John, I'm with you. It's the future. It's the way it's going. In-person is the way. The only real advantage I can see is that maybe institutions are thinking of is how it was back in 2019, being in person, being in front and talking to people, having that interaction. I mean, we're humans. We like interaction. But really, is it really worth all that investment to go and speak face to face with a student for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is for the first time? Or is it better to spend that money on virtual? That virtual that we were talking about, that was like 20,000 to do that one tour. We have annual packages where you can do 15 events for 19,500. Sorry, I went a bit away from your question there, Ian. But what I'm finding is there's a mix. People say, no, I want to go back to in-person. That's great. Go back to in-person. See what it's like. And then come and talk to us. And then see if what is better, virtual or in-person. And I have other clients that say, no, John, it's just virtual for me. Or I have some saying a mix. Let's do some in-person. Let's do some virtual. But the way I see it, the way that it's been laid out there's just too many benefits to do virtual. But Ian, if you're still there with me, tell me what you think about it. What's your perception? Do you feel that you would like to go back to in-person, or would you like to do just virtual, or would you prefer to have a mix? Or anyone else in the chat? Like, I'd love to hear what you think. I love hearing ideas. I love hearing, maybe someone thinks in-person is better. Why? I'd love to hear why. Ian, I think that was Ian. Ian is in the UK, right? Is he in the UK?
Yes, I think he said northeast.
Northumbria. Northeast, okay. Okay, fair enough.
Final question here from Barbara. Is it possible to chat with more than one student at a time at virtual fairs? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. At least with our platform, you can have as many open conversations with students as you like. Perhaps it's better to not keep them all to yourselves if you have other representatives with you in the booth, because you can come a little bit lost. But you can have as many one-to-one typed chats going on at the same time. And we've also recently introduced group chats, and this can be both just a typed chat, or you can have a group video call. So yeah, it's totally possible to have multiple conversations at the same time.
Barbara, now I can't keep quiet. I just want to say one thing. Or FPP. I used to be a client of FPP. I used to do student recruitment for a study group here in Brazil. I'd travel around, go to fairs, go to FPP fairs, other fairs, speak with agents and so forth. And I just see that things are changing. Things are evolving. As Jack said, we hired a virtual fair platform. We had problems with that. Then we invested to make our own virtual fair platform. Now I remember what I was going to say. Virtual fairs. We used to go virtual fairs. Sometimes we'd write the names down, type them into an Excel. Then we came up with a scanner. We had our own program, software, with a scanning gun where you could scan the badge of the student and collect their information. Great. That was innovative. We were the first people to bring that in. Then we saw that was a bit cumbersome. We'd have to travel with a lot of scanning guns. It wasn't good to travel. So then the founder of our company, Giulio Honchetti, as well with Danielle, who was a mastermind in IT, said, no, let's build our own app. So then they built our own app that you could scan at in-person fairs, you could put in comments and so forth. So another innovation. Then we came up with the virtual fair platform. And as we got feedback from exhibitors, we improved this virtual fair platform. So there's a lot of features in our platform now that actually exhibitors told us that they would like to see. But what's exciting is 2022, we have innovation coming. I can't talk much about it now, but it's going to help in-person events. It's going to enhance the experience for students, for exhibitors, and there's a lot of stuff coming in 2022. Yeah, that's Jack. I've got to shut up now. Cut me off.
I think you went into more detail than anybody asked for, but that's always fine. But I think it looks like that's all the questions we have coming in. Any final ones before we do log out?
I think that's
but I think that's it. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today. The session will be available if you're watching on YouTube at the same link. I think if anybody's watching from LinkedIn, this is our first time streaming there, so I'm not sure if it'll be available somewhere on our LinkedIn page. If not, it will be on our FPP YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, John. And we'll hope to see you at an event soon.
Bye for now.